Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Why does Jason pick up the hockey mask?
Where is the blood and gore?
And did all part 3s in the 80s have to be in 3D?
All this and more on Gory Storytime.
Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Storytime. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig. And quickly, just to answer those questions, because it looks better than a sack, the MPAA sucks, and it sure seems like it, doesn't it?
Yes. This week on Misleading Posters, we are reviewing the third.
Not the first one, because that is the poster for the first one. I didn't even notice that until you just said that.
Yes. Whoopsie.
We instead watched Friday the 13th in 3D.
It's a very similar poster, but he's pointing the knife at you, and it's got a 3 on it instead.
And it even has like a D after the 3, I believe, in the poster.
No, it didn't.
It depends on the poster you're looking at.
It
Because they
didn't
made a
for
big
the one
deal.
I have.
They made a big deal about it being in 3D. But anyway.
Right, either way.
So if you're wondering, wait, didn't they review this movie? Well, yes, we didn't review the one we're reviewing, but we did review that one.
Yeah, that was episode 2.
It was, right after Nightmare on Elm Street, which was our first one ever. Now, our plan is we're going to do, because we like to do 4 of a similar topic, we're going to do thirds in horror series.
Yeah.
We were going to start with Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, but apparently we had already done it, and at 160 or whatever the hell episodes, we forgot that.
Yeah.
But it popped up as
So,
one that we had done.
Our secondary first choice is
Friday the 13th 3. Basically, here's the premise. Jason Voorhees is still pissed off and murdering folks. And
boy, does he do a good job at that.
And this time, it's coming at you. That's about it.
Yeah, because 3D.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's the plot.
If you haven't seen the movie,
That's the plot.
why are you watching?
Yeah. Anyway, let's roll the trailer, and hopefully he doesn't have the first movie for that one.
Weekends are a good time to escape to the woods. Unless the weekend begins with Friday the 13th. Because 13 is an unlucky number. But out here, so are 1 through 12. Because these are Jason's woods. And nobody leaves them alive. Friday the 13th, Part 3. Jason, you can't fight him. You can't stop him. And now, you can't even keep him on the screen. Friday the 13th, Part 3. When it comes to killing in Jason's woods, Jason will come to you. Friday the 13th, Part 3. A new dimension in terror. It will scare you. count on it.
Well, all right then.
Yeah. And it didn't give anything away. Jason kills people.
That you just told him the movie.
Oh,
And not all of them can be said about.
right.
Not all of them does Jason kill people. Now, before we get into the behind the scenes information, it's been a couple weeks. We missed last week, so we got to make that fat paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And how do we do that?
Those.
By reading our real sponsors' commercials that actually exist and you can purchase or whatever. Yeah. This week, Gory Storytime is brought to you by Little Jason and Friends, the animated series. Follow the adventures of an elementary school-aged version of Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, and more. It's 1 part Muppet Babies, 1 part Happy Tree Friends, and 1 part parody in case any copyright lawyers are listening. Jason and Friends, coming soon.
And by The Stoner's Guide to Movies, a comprehensive review of the best and worst movies to watch while high on the marijuana cigarettes. The Stoner's Guide to Movies divides films into categories like movies so stupid they're hilarious, or movies that will make you shit yourself, but you won't care because you're high. All movies are rated on a scale of 1 to 5 puffs, and a final chapter listing movies to never watch while high. If you puffed, you should pass. The Stoner's Guide to Movies is the ultimate film guide for potheads.
All right. Is that right? All right, now let's get to the meat
and beef of the show.
Something we haven't said in a few weeks.
Okay. This was the first of the Friday the 13th films to use the iconic hockey mask, which has been in every sequel since.
And Sean S. Cunningham hates it because it had nothing to do with the movie he created. He created a movie about a mom getting revenge for her son's death.
No.
That is what he created. Yes.
No.
Yes.
His son didn't die.
He didn't, but that's not the this is not the time for that.
No, it's not.
And it literally said that in the movie, so shut up. The house, barn, and lake were all purpose-built on location. The man-made lake wasn't properly sealed, and subsequently the water drained into the soil during the first week of filming.
Good stuff.
That's not a waste of water.
Nope. The Royal Independent Movie Theatre in Toronto, Canada, which closed in 2006, had owned one of the few copies of the movie in its original 3D format. They used to screen the film once every Halloween.
The original plan for the film involved Ginny, played by Amy Steele, from the previous film being confined to a psychiatric hospital, suffering from the trauma inflicted on her during the ordeal with Jason. She eventually finds that, intent on revenge, he has tracked her down and begins to murder the staff and other patients at the hospital. Steele ultimately declined the offer to return to the series as she was busy with other projects, but has since said she thinks she should have accepted. Yes, because whatever those other projects were, who?
Exactly.
So that worked out well for her.
Right.
Who?
To prevent the film's plot being leaked, the production used the fake title Crystal Japan after David Bowie song. This began an on-again, off-again tradition of giving the Friday the 13th films David Bowie song titles during filming.
Larry Zerner was cast as Shelley when the producers spotted him handing out flyers for a horror movie and said, "Would you like to star in one yourself?"
Although it appears sunny and warm, the film was shot during a January, February winter. Several night scenes were trimmed in order to conceal the actor's visible breath appearing on screen.
Former trapeze artist Richard Brooker was chosen to play Jason simply because Steve Milner needed a big man for the role. Being 6'3" and not that bulky, the slim and toned Brooker wore foam padding under his clothes and did his own stunts.
Nice. Martin J. Sadoff, the film's 3D effects supervisor, is responsible for coming up with Jason's trademark hockey mask. Sadoff always kept a bag with him full of hockey gear on set because he was an avid hockey fan. While testing potential masks to use for Jason, he pulled out a Detroit Red Wings goalie mask for the test. Director Steve Miner loved the look, and after making some modifications to the mask, decided to use it in the film.
Jason is first seen wearing the mask exactly 1 hour into the film.
This movie was released on a Friday the 13th.
Not all of them were. For part 3, they moved production from Connecticut to California, where they could be closer to the Hollywood experts needed for the film that was attempting to revitalize 3D. They told the East Coast-based Steve Daskowitz if he wanted to play Jason, as he did for most of part 2, he'd have to pay for his own airfare out to California. He objected, because, yeah.
Right.
So the part was recast with Richard Brooker, a former English trapeze artist who could perform his own stunts, appear physically intimidating in stature. See, that's dumb.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't make
messed
your
up.
star fly himself out.
No. The producers decided to not use the burlap sack Jason wore in the previous film due to its unintentional similarities to David Lynch's The Elephant Man.
The 3D version contains a title card not seen in the 2D home video releases for obvious reasons. After the Paramount logo fades out, the card reads, "Ladies and gentlemen, the first few minutes of this picture are not in 3D. However, you will need 3D glasses." The film then continues as normal with a recap of the ending of part 2 presented in 2D. The 3D begins with the shot of Jason removing the machete from his shoulder. Because they couldn't go back and make the stuff from part 2 that they used. Because that's one thing they did. In part 2, they started off with like a few minutes of the end of part 1.
Right.
In part 3, they started with a few minutes of the end of part 2. In part 4, they used parts 1, 2, and 3 to tell the story.
Right. So basically,
always give
if you
you
went to the theater
It's like,
having not seen the
previously
prior
on
one,
Jason Voorhees and Friends. Or Jason and Friends. Basically,
yes.
it's like last time.
right. The original script, the character of Rick was called Derek. It was changed to Rick because one less syllable and therefore easier to scream.
Seriously. The only way to see this film uncut is to get a copy of the early Dutch release on VHS, which is somewhat rare. It includes all the uncut death sequences and added blood and gore and facial reactions. I would love
That's the
to see
version
that.
I'd like to see.
I'd love to see that.
The film made $36,985,198 with a budget of $4 million.
This was Paramount's first 3D film since Ulysses from 1954.
Wow. Why did they decide to do it in 3D?
That's part of the next thing. So
dang
read
it.
that.
They needed an advertising gimmick. Now the audience had caught on to their storytelling formula, and 2 months after the release of Part 2, a 3D comedy western from Spain called Coming At Ya made a stunning, for the time, $12 million, mostly due to novelty of its use of 3D. Since Friday the 13th was built around stabbing instruments protruding outward at the screen, a 3D version seemed natural. So Friday the 13th Part 3 became the first Paramount film in 3D since '56, as well as the first ever 3D film to receive a wide theatrical release from a major Hollywood studio. The scarcity of 3D-equipped theaters in the past demanded 3D films only play on a limited number of screens.
According to the book, Crystal Lake Memories, Chris's past encounter with Jason was originally intended to imply sexual assault. The series was meant to conclude with this entry, and the writers wanted the audience to be pleased with Jason's demise, reasoning that if he was portrayed as a rapist, they could have no interest in seeing him come back. They decided that was too dark a direction to take the character, and those elements were removed from the film, except it kind of hinted at it when the girl that was fighting with him, she went back to the lake because she remembered being assaulted, and he literally dragged her off into the woods, the assumption being he assaulted her sexually.
Oh, and then...
Oh, yes. On the Rotten Tomatoes scale of 1 to 100%, based on just positive or negative votes, 42% of the people, the fans,
Gave it a
gave it a positive review.
and 11% of the critics gave it a positive review.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a horror movie, and those who love horror movies probably gave it a positive review, and a lot of those other ones just don't like the genre.
And shouldn't be
Reviewing
critiquing
horror
it.
movies?
Right.
Yeah, if you don't like Chinese food, don't review a Chinese place that opens up. It's not really fair to those who enjoy it or the preparers of the food.
Right.
If you don't like,
Opera.
you know, or if I don't really watch a lot of chick flicks. I'm not good. We don't do a show where I review those. We do a show where we review horror movies because we like them.
Yeah, we do.
But anyway, what was your least favorite scene of this movie?
Least favorite scene.
Yeah, let's go least.
Could you go first?
With me, it's just the overall lack of blood and guts. They had the eye pop out with no blood. There was like the MPAA really clamped down after the first one of these because it got such a bad reputation that they had to fight tooth and nail to get any blood in most of these movies. A lot of them, it's like, here he is about to stab, here it is stabbed all the way through, but here's the part where you don't see it going through the person. Like, it's like, come on. And so for me, that was my biggest problem, is just the fact that they don't show much. Considering how notoriously bloody these movies are supposed to be, they aren't.
Right.
They would have been, but the MPAA said no.
I think the thing I liked least about it, which is kind of unfair to the movie itself, is we watched it in 2D, and it kind of got annoying because every chance they got, they were pointing something at the screen, and it didn't do anything for us because we were just sitting there watching the movie without 3D glasses.
Correct.
So, like, in every scene, they'd have a reason to point at the camera.
Or have something poke out at the camera, and you just go,
And it's
that
just-
would probably look cool.
Gee,
Probably.
I wish I knew.
And of course, the box set did not come with 3D glasses to watch the 3D version, which does exist on the disc. It just,
Right.
Nope.
It includes the 3D version, does not include the 3D glasses.
right.
It's dumb.
Yes. What was your,
What was your...
my favorite, yeah, since I went first, even though you were supposed to. My favorite thing, as much as it wasn't as gory as it should be, the eye popping out. Because of the story that goes along with it.
Feels like we're running short. You want to...
I mean, basically, the story was I went and saw it in the theater, didn't know what drugs were, and someone in front of me obviously was on them because when the eyeball popped out and came towards the screen, he started digging through his popcorn going, oh my God, it's in my popcorn. And he wasn't kidding. And I'm sitting there going, what is wrong with this dude? And then he goes, oh no. And reaches into his mouth and pulls out a Whopper, like those chocolate malt balls. And I'm like, because he wasn't kidding. He thought that he had an eyeball
in his mouth.
So, yeah, as young as I was like, that guy has something wrong with him.
Yes.
What was your favorite?
See, my favorite is Sean S. whatever his name's least favorite, which is I love the hockey mask. I do.
You just love that it added that element?
Yeah, because, I don't know, he's known as the killer that has that. So, seeing that that's where it started, and there's still 9 more movies.
Well, there's a lot of things that this series is known for. It's known for he attacks campgrounds every time, except for he doesn't.
Right. He has once so far.
You know, and it's never been when kids were there. It was just so far. There are ones where kids show up, but he hasn't got there yet. It's known as really gory. It's not because of the MPAA. It's known as, you know, the movie with Jason Voorhees, except for 2 of them weren't.
The first one weren't.
Right. It's, you know, supposed to be on the East Coast, and you can tell in the first 2 it was, but something about the, like, outdoors on the West Coast doesn't match up.
Doesn't at all.
And so from 3
Their trees
on,
aren't the same as ours.
yeah,
so.
like, it just, you can definitely tell that it wasn't in New Jersey. like it was supposed to be.
Right.
And the first one, the reason they put it in New Jersey was because that's where they filmed it. Made it a lot easier, kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They were like, well, we were going to say another state, but all the signs say Texas, so we're just going to go with that then.
It's easier.
Yeah, well, that's what they did here.
Costs less.
But anyway, so what was that? That was your
Yeah.
favorite?
So
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10.
I'd probably give it a 7. I really like all of the movies that I've seen so far, and I can only assume I'll like with the rest of them. So
It's weird. He hasn't seen all of them yet. Like last night, he saw 4 for the first time. He's seen 1, 2, 3, Manhattan, Hell, and
Freddy
X,
vs.
and
Jason.
Freddy vs. Jason.
So
But
I
he
know
never
I
saw
missed
4,
4,
5, 6, and
6,
7.
and 7. Right.
So now we're watching them in order. We watched 1, 2, 3 last night. We happened to watch 4,
Yeah.
and then so we'll be reviewing those never probably because
No, we'll do it eventually.
eh.
One of these days.
Yeah.
One of these days.
Yeah.
We'll do it. My show. Stop it.
It's our show. Stop it. All right. And I'm gonna give it on a scale of 1 to 10. It's if it wasn't for the 3D, which does get annoying when you're watching it in 2D.
Right.
I don't think it would. It's not that great in the franchise itself. I like 2 better.
Yeah,
I
I
like-
like them all. So
Well, I like a lot of them better than this one. Even 5, which when we get to that, like doesn't have Jason Voorhees in it. So I'm gonna go with like 6, just because even on a scale of just these movies, I wouldn't put it in the top half. I wouldn't put it as low as some, because X exists.
right.
But anyway, so
All right. So
why don't you point
on
to
that side of the screen.
that stuff?
Yeah. So you can watch this show on Fact TV channel 1076, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 7 p.m.
You can like us on Facebook. And by us, I mean you can like Gory Storytime and Fact TV.
Yep. You can go to factdate.com and watch a bunch of the back episodes of this and all of the other stuff that they do because they have everything.
All right, and on Twitter, you can follow me. I'm at Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase. Do you remember what your new
I don't
Twitter
remember
is?
what my new Twitter is.
You probably should have brought it up and thought of that.
Yeah, so I'll do that next time.
That's what you keep saying.
No, I said I'll do that last time. Last time I said I'll do it eventually. This time, I'll make sure to do it.
I'll believe it when I see it. But anyway,
I don't. Until then, I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig,
And sweet dreams.